Hey guys, welcome to another episode of AKP Sports Talk. It's your favorite two. It's Ari. We've said that a lot. This is Korea. We've said that a lot. It's Monday, the 25th. It's already crazy, but it's draft week. In the last week of April, we head into May. April showers bring May flowers. Ari, how you doing?
Yeah, you mentioned it's crazy how fast April has gone by. We're already on episode 30, I believe, of this podcast, whatever you want to call it. So kind of crazy how quickly it's flown by, but excited to talk about all the fun weekend games that we had to watch these past few days.
Yeah, let's get straight into it with basketball. We're going to first start with the NBA playoffs. Miami, they played on Friday and yesterday in Atlanta, and they swept the Atlanta Hawks in Atlanta. Game three, was a lot closer, very close contest, but in the end, the Miami Heat pulled out with the 110, 111 victory.
No, the Hawks won by one that game.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. It's whatever. The Hawks are going to lose the series anyway. So the Hawks, they pulled out the victory on Friday, but then yesterday they got beat down pretty badly by this Miami team. And now Miami leads the series 3-1, heading back to Miami on Tuesday or Wednesday. Ari, there was this kind of shift from Game 3 to Game 4, Friday to Sunday. After Game 3, it looked like maybe the Hawks had a chance with Trae Young shooting the ball really well, but now they took a big step back on Saturday. Just bad day for the Hawks. Not on Sunday, excuse me. What happened to the Hawks this weekend? And I mean, obviously you had the Heat in 5, so this is pretty much what we saw coming. But obviously, one of the bigger questions is Trae Young. Having a really bad first round series against this Miami Heat team that's really playing him very well defensively. What did you make of Game 2 and Game 3 and Game 4 over the weekend?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Game 3 was tight, came down to the wire. Trae Young had the game-winning flow there with a few seconds left to kind of give them a chance in the series and avoid getting swept. But then Game 4 was a completely different story. Trae Young was held to single-digit points for the second time in the series. And that was without Kyle Lowry too in Game 4 as well. But Butler had 36 in that game, and yeah, I mean Atlanta struggled to even score 80 points. It wasn't until some garbage time threes that got them past 80 points late, 110 to 86. So yeah, basically all three of the Heat wins have been by pretty at least decent margins, and Atlanta had the one big game, Game 3 in front of a fired up crowd. They're down 2-0. They wanted to get one game at home, but definitely overall the Heat have dominated the series, and I mean it's what you'd expect in most 1-8 series. I mean, we saw Atlanta last year have the magical run to the Eastern Conference Finals, but definitely getting overmatched and overpowered in pretty much every way imaginable in the series through 4 games.
Yeah, you mentioned last year they had that run. Obviously, they had to play the Knicks in the first round, and then they had to go play Philly before they ended up against Milwaukee before losing in that series. And it looks like this year the Heat, obviously defensively one of the best teams on defense, have really just shut down Trae Young on offense. And, one of the big things obviously carrying this Atlanta team is the fact that they are very prolific scorers, especially Trae Young when he's hot. But when he's not, this team really struggles to, finally, rally around, try and lead a comeback. Meanwhile, this Miami team, you mentioned, they didn't even have Kyle Lowry yesterday, and they dominated the Hawks, winning very comfortably, almost by 30. And it just seemed that, Miami, this will just be an easy win at 5 for them, just with the fact that Kyle Lowry, even though he wasn't even playing, Jimmy Butler, I think he is turning into that scorer. A lot of people don't really know him for that, but obviously more of a defensive player. But when he can score, and that's what he's doing right now. He put up 45 in Game 1, and then now 36 in Game 4. It's just showing how Jimmy Butler is now turning into that guy on the offense. And whoever they match up with, probably going to be Philly in the second round. It'll be very interesting to see how Philly will match up well. 2 scoring offenses. We'll see how they do potentially in that second round matchup. But we're going to get into the next one. The next one was the Bucks and Bulls. And Milwaukee is taking over this series right now. Milwaukee, easily winning by 30 on Friday in Game 3, and then Game 4 was an easy one for them as well. Almost won by 30 again, won by 24. And they're doing this without Chris Middleton, which was one of the key things we talked about on Friday's episode was how are they gonna still win this series without Chris Middleton? Looks like they're fine. Look, defensively, the Bulls are can't really do anything on offense. They haven't even scored 100 points in the last 2 games. 81. I mean, Friday's game was absolutely pathetic from the Bulls. I mean, you just saw that the crowd looked so dejected in that game. The Bulls only shot 26% from 3, 40% from the field. I mean, Vucevic was the leading scorer again. It was one of those games where the Bulls offense just seemed to struggle like Game 1. But the Milwaukee Bucks offense did not struggle at all, with Giannis finishing with 18. Bobby Portis had a good game finishing with 18. And then had big competition from Grayson Allen. What a game for him on Friday, putting up 18 and 12 off the bench, scoring 22. So, and then Sunday, yesterday, looked like it's another Bulls domination game once again. The Milwaukee Bucks, this time it was Giannis having a big game, but Grayson Allen off the bench again. So now, without Chris Middleton, it looks like we found the leading scorer, and it's Grayson Allen off the bench. Who would have thought? And then just the Bulls cannot find anything. I mean, yes, they had good scores yesterday with Levine, 8 of 18, and DeRozan, 8 of 20, and Patrick Williams, 7 of 13 from the field. But, it's not going to be enough to beat Giannis, who's averaging 32, and then Drew Holiday and Grayson Allen, that they're shooting the ball right now, and they're shooting it well. So, Ari, what were your thoughts about games 3 and 4 this weekend? Are the Bucks still one of the favorites to win in this East, which has a bunch of loaded stars?
Yeah, I mean, on Friday we were talking who is going to, replace Middleton as that scorer. We were talking about Holiday, Matthews, and here comes Grayson Allen almost combining for 50 points in these last 2 games. The Bulls, stole Game 2. Middleton got hurt. They had the momentum going home, and then they just. You mentioned they haven't even scored 100 points in either of these 2 games. I mean, Giannis didn't even have a huge game in Game 3, only 18 points, but they're just kind of balanced across the board. Guys like Porter stepping up, and then of course we mentioned Grayson Allen, and then Giannis in Game 4 was just unstoppable with 32 and 17. I mean, DeRozan, Levine, Vucevic have all been. They're all decent in Game 4. Game 3, they all kind of struggled for the most part, or at least I know DeRozan had like 11 points in Game 3. But yeah, I don't know. It's just pure dominance across the board, and like these last 2 games, and on the road in Chicago too, after splitting the first 2 in Milwaukee. I believe Middleton could be back like late next series or early Eastern Conference Finals if they make it that far. But I mean, with the way they're playing right now, they might be able to kind of squeeze by and get at least the Eastern Conference Finals when Middleton should be fully healthy based off the kind of initial timetable that they gave him.
Yeah, you mentioned right now, looked like the momentum was all going to Chicago's favor after that Game 2 where the Bulls stole one in Milwaukee. And Milwaukee just shut all that down. I mean, that Game 3 was absolutely brutal to be a Bulls fan. Lost by 30 in your first playoff home game since I think 2018 it was when the last time the Bulls made it, and that's just deflated the whole arena. And then yesterday losing by another 24, just deflated the whole arena. You mentioned the timetable for Chris Middleton. Obviously, it's going to be a little while, but it looks like they're doing just fine without him. But yeah, the Bucks definitely have control of this series. They regained it as soon as Game 3 tipped off in Chicago, and now Game 5 is, I believe, tomorrow in back at the Fizzard Forum in Milwaukee. So looks like the Bucks may just wrap this up in 5. But one that's not going to 5 and now is more intriguing than ever out of the West. We're going to talk about the Suns and Pelicans. So Game 3 was on Friday, and the Suns escaped with the win on the road without Devin Booker. You mentioned this team would obviously have to prepare for a little while without Booker, and it looked like they prepared well. Obviously, Chris Paul and DeAndre Ayton carried this team on Friday, putting up both 28 points in that game. And then Mikal Bridges, a nice 17, but then JaVale McGee putting up 15 off the bench was very, very key for them in this win. But even though it did get outshined by Brandon Ingram, a lot of people are saying this man's turning into the next Kevin Durant. And we're seeing it right now. Prolific score. He dropped 34 and they still lost. And McCollum dropped 30. Just great. I mean, the story of this game was turnovers. I mean, the Suns barely forced any. They only had 6 turnovers the whole game. And the Pelicans forcing 15. That was the story of the game. Just turnovers late for this Pelicans team. And the Suns really, keeping this close one wrap. But Sunday was a completely different story. Pretty much Chris Paul was locked down by no one saw this coming, but Jose Alvarado is that guy, and Herbert Jones is that guy. On defense, they were unstoppable. They were locking everybody down. It was ridiculous. I saw so many memes today about Herbert Jones being Defensive Player of the Year along with Jose Alvarado. But yeah, pretty much defensively, it was just the story of those two pretty much locking down Chris Paul, especially just bringing up the ball. I mean, Chris Paul shot horribly, only finished with 4 points, 11 assists, 2 of 8 from the field. It was just ugly. And this Suns team, they dug deep into their bench, but another 30-point performance by Brandon Ingram, lifts his team. And then Jonas Valanciunas yesterday, obviously big contributor inside, finishing with 26 and 15. So Ari, out of all the series, I would say I was the most confident in this one going to 4. Now it's going to go to 6, and it's Game 5, at least 6, and Game 5 is now back in Phoenix. Obviously, the Devin Booker injury is playing a big role as to why Phoenix can't seem to get any real good, offensive just going. I mean, if they had Devin Booker, it would be a completely different story. But now we head into Game 5 on Tuesday. And Ari, how confident do you feel now that the Suns will potentially get out of this series and face either Dallas or Utah?
Yeah, I mean, I would say I'm still pretty confident. I don't see Chris Paul getting shut down, 2 games in a row like he did in Game 4. And in a way, kind of in a weird way, the longer the series goes, I mean, I don't know if I want to say it's the better for Phoenix, but the longer it goes, the sooner Booker will be back by the next round. Obviously, they have to get by the series first, and it's 2-2, so I'm not going to say it's going to be easy, but Game 3 is kind of weird because the Suns won by 3, but looking at the box score with what Ingram and McCollum did and how well they shot the ball, you would just think that the Pelicans won that game with how well they shot. But yeah, I think it was 15-6 in terms of turnovers, with the Pelicans having 15, so that was the biggest difference. And then Game 4, it was kind of close for most of the first half, and then Ingram had another 30-plus point game. Valanciunas dominated, and they kind of ran away with it late in the second half. Ayton had another big game, so he's been really good for them these past couple of games. But yeah, they're definitely missing that score in Booker. They don't really have anyone outside of Chris Paul who can kind of create their own shot in a way. I mean, you have guys like Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson are kind of a little bit more kind of spot up shooters. So they're definitely missing that kind of go-to scorer who can get a bucket at any time they need it. But I don't know. I still think the Suns are going to bounce back at Game 5 at home. Maybe the Pelicans win at home Game 6 and go 7. But I don't know. I'm still leaning. I definitely still lean towards the Suns in this series. But yeah, I mean, without Booker, it definitely makes a huge difference in terms of how easy it is for Phoenix in this series.
Yeah, I can definitely see the series definitely going to 7 games now. Every game is so close. I mean, other than yesterday's game with just Chris Paul locked down defensively, but in preparation for Game 5, which is probably going to be tomorrow, I think this team will definitely adjust well. And I definitely think this series is definitely going to be going to 7. And a lot of people obviously are just riding with the Pelicans because Brandon Ingram is turning into that guy. And if you have McCollum shooting the ball well on that night, then it's looking like this team may actually make it to the second round. But I still definitely do have confidence in this Phoenix team. The veteran leadership of Chris Paul, he's battled so much adversity before. Let's just hope Scott Foster is not coaching any of his these last 3 games in the series for him, or else he is toast. But other than that, obviously, yeah, I still believe in Chris Paul and this team. I think just Cam Johnson needs to, to be that shooter like Grayson Allen is right now for Milwaukee, and lock down some good shots and make some good shots when it really matters.
He's 0-14 with Scott Foster as a ref in his games now, or something.
I think it's 0-15, or I think it's near 0-18. I believe. I don't even remember, but yeah, Scott Foster. Yeah, Scott Foster is the kryptonite of Chris Paul. So we got to hope for him that he's not coaching any of those last 3 games. But all jokes aside, yeah, I think Chris Paul can definitely still make this an interesting series. And you mentioned if it goes to 7, then definitely better for Devin Booker and better for the Suns, and I definitely agree with you. Suns have definitely battled adversity. Remember last year, they were battling adversity with the Lakers. A lot of people were saying the Lakers were just going to easily beat the Suns team, and they battled through that, got through the second round, made it to the third round, make it to the semi-conference finals, then made it to the finals. So, yeah, I definitely believe that the Suns could still get out of this. It's just going to be one of the more intriguing series to watch. But now we're going to go into Saturday's game. We're going to start off with the Sixers and Raptors, and look at that. The Raptors won a game. Raptors get the win 110-102 at home. We talked about Joel Embiid's thumb being pretty much a big role in his future games after he tore ligament in it. And, not a great shooting day for him, 7 of 16 from the field. Just not a great it was a great shooting day for pretty much both teams, except for three. The Raptors were not shooting well from three, but it just didn't look pretty for this Sixers team. A lot of turnovers, a lot of fouling on this team. Just like the Raptors really wanted this game more. Obviously, they needed it down 3-0. And then look who came back. Scotty Barnes, the guy we've always been talking about. He just won Rookie of the Year. Congratulations to him. And now in his first game back in the series, off the bench, he gets a considerable about 26 minutes in this game. Doesn't shoot the ball well, but, grabs the most boards out of everyone on the team, 11 boards. But this was led by Pascal Siakam. I flamed this man for minutes on our last episode, and he definitely heard me because he dropped 34, and that was the guy that they definitely needed in this game on this game 4. In Toronto. Now game 5 is today in Philadelphia. So, but now we have an intriguing storyline that no Fred VanVleet tonight for this Raptors team. So definitely down a big score there. But Ari, I want to get your reactions first from game 4. Obviously, you had Toronto in this series. Do you still? I mean, obviously, it's never been done before, but do you still see Toronto making it out, or do you think it's going to be over in 5?
The Raptors just can't catch a break. They get Scotty Barnes back, and then now VanVleet's out. Like, they just can't catch a break. But I mean, watching that game 4, Embiid was definitely hurting his thumb. Like you could see he was in pain. And in the press conference, he said he wasn't feeling pain, but if you watch the game, he was holding on to it several times, and his passing wasn't the same. So, I mean, I'm not going to go out and say I'm going to predict the Raptors are going to come back, but I think that this Embiid injury definitely gives him even at least the smallest of chances of coming back. I mean, VanVleet left the game in the second quarter in the last game, and they still kind of rebounded to win. Obviously, home crowd makes a big difference, and so they're going to be on the road tonight in game 5. But I mean, if Siakam can continue this momentum and score another 30-plus points, Scotty Barnes didn't shoot the ball well, but his defense was there. So hopefully he can have a better scoring performance tonight with a couple of days off for rest, and then they're going to need Gary Trent to have another 20-plus point game as well. So they're definitely going to need those 3 guys to show up, as well as Anunoby, who kind of has a few pretty good games in the series. But I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how Embiid's thumb looks tonight. I mean, if he looks the same as he did in the last game, then definitely might be in some trouble. Harden had a really poor shooting performance, 5 of 17. So I think with Embiid hurting, they're going to need Harden to step up more to the score. He's kind of been a little bit more hesitant at times to shoot the ball, it seems like, in the series. But yeah, they're definitely need Harden to step up more to score. And Tobias Harris has kind of been the most consistent player for them. I believe he's had a double-double in every game of the series, or at least 3 of the 4 at least. So he's definitely been solid, and they're going to need Maxey to be more aggressive as well, because he's kind of, after his huge game 1, he's kind of been a little bit not as aggressive since that game 1. So they're going to, I think, to make up for Embiid, he's going to undergo surgery in the offseason, so it's clearly an issue. So Philly's going to need the Harden and Maxey to step up more, I think, because I don't think Embiid, I mean, we'll see. Maybe he feels better today, but based off game 4, I don't think he's going to be as big as a factor as he was the first 3 games of the series. So, I'm not going to predict Toronto to make the unpredictable comeback, but I think the Embiid injury gives them at least some hope, and they just have to take it one game at a time at this point.
Yeah, that was pretty much all I was gonna say over there. I mean, you mentioned tonight's game. Philly's right now currently the favorite, 8-point favorite, but without with Embiid, not 100%. That's definitely gonna play a big factor. You mentioned Harden kind of being outshined right now. This is just classic James Harden in the playoffs. Doesn't show up. I knew this was gonna happen, but I'm gonna talk about showing up later with the Nets, but. Yeah, the Sixers, I think right now they are in a little bit of trouble if Embiid is really having some issues shooting the ball and having a lot of pain in that thumb. But James Harden definitely needs to step up. Obviously, you mentioned Tobias Harris having a good series, averaging a double-double pretty much every game. And then Maxey after game one, he's been a little inconsistent at times, but I think if Tyrese Maxey and James Harden are shooting the ball well tonight, I think Philly could pull this out, considering that Fred VanVleet is not playing tonight. So pivotal game 5 for the Raptors, obviously winner go home situation for them. But now we're going to get into the next game that happened Friday between the Mavs and the Jazz. Wow, what a game. The Mavs, I don't like to flame the Mavs, but what was that last possession? I don't know what that was. That was the most ridiculous last possession I've ever seen. Luka was taking way too much time with the ball. He kind of wanted it. He wanted to do it by himself, but he didn't need to. They were double guarding him, triple teaming him, and he just threw up this Hail Mary that was just not even going to go anywhere, wasn't fouled. Jazz somehow get a win in this series where it feels like the Jazz can't win.
Sure, it was he passed it. It was Dinwiddie who took that last shot. He passed it to him with 2 seconds left.
Yeah, still a bad shot. Triple teamed. Hands in the face. But this was Luka Doncic's first game in this series after being out with a calf strain. He dropped 30 and 10. So good game for Luka. Back in the starting lineup again. Not really that much contributors off the bench. It finally seems that Kleber has finally cooled off. He fouled out early, but 1 of 4 from the field. And then Brunson, not a great shooting day for him. 7 of 18, 2 of 5. And you move down to the Jazz. Mitchell didn't even shoot the ball well again. He shot 7 of 4, 7 of 21 from the field, 2 of 10. Bogdanovic didn't do anything as well, but the story of the game was Jordan Clarkson off the bench. He dropped 25, 9 of 16, 3 of 5. He was pretty much, he was a former 6th man of the year for this team last year when they were the number 1 seed out in the West, and I think it's proving why he's definitely a contender for 6th man of the year, dropping 25 off the bench. So, Ari, first of all, let's get into that last possession. What did you make of it? And then now the series is tied 2-2 heading back to Dallas. Do you still believe Dallas can finish this off in 7, or can Utah actually make this series a lot more interesting?
Yeah, you have to figure Dallas should have known that they're going to double Luka on the last possession, and they definitely weren't prepared for it. They definitely, you mentioned, I don't know what that was. They definitely weren't prepared, and I don't even know what the play call was. I believe it was I don't remember if they called timeout before that or not. I want to say they did, but either way, it was definitely a awful last possession. Luka hits that 3, put him up 4 at 40 seconds left, and you think that that's a dagger. And then Mitchell comes back with the M1, and then the alley-up to Gobert to put him up 1. But Mitchell, you mentioned, didn't shoot well, but he still had a couple of clutch plays at the end that ended up winning them the game. Clarkson had some huge shots, especially in that fourth quarter, to kind of keep them close. Brunson had another big game, 23 points. So it was good to see Luka back and fully healthy. It's always first game back off a major injury or a serious injury. You kind of wonder, if they're going to be fully themselves. But Luka was definitely fully himself. I still like Dallas in 7. I think they bounce back. I believe it's tonight, right? Game 5. So I think they bounce back at home. Maybe Utah wins at home. I think Dallas at least wins in 7 on their home court. I definitely think that Dallas. I still think they're the better team at the end of the day. Mitchell hasn't shot well all series. He's put up the points, but on poor efficiency and all of that. Clarkson's definitely helped them a lot throughout this whole series, and Bogdanovic too. Outside of the last game, he's been really big for them. I don't know. I still think Luka's going to be the best player on the court the rest of the series, and that will show in the final result of the series.
Yeah, definitely Luka is the best player on this court right now. Donovan Mitchell is struggling. I've seen a lot of reports that he wants out of Utah, and I think he's making his pretty good case that he wants to get out of Utah. But yeah, we mentioned it was still a close game. Jalen Brunson didn't shoot that well. Not that much contribution outside of Luka for that Mavs team. That's pretty much the only reason why they lost. So we'll see how it is in Dallas environment now, not on the road for Brunson and that Dallas squad. But definitely Utah can potentially steal one back home in Game 6. I'd love to see this series go to 7. Now that Luka's finally back, after missing the first 3 in Dallas, having that lead without him, and now Utah evens it up when this first game back. So, definitely interesting to see how Game 5 will go tonight. But I don't want to talk about this team, but the Celtics and Nets, Game 4 obviously is in progress. I have the score of that one right now. And, of course, the Celtics have the lead, but barely, though. It's a 1-point lead, about 3 minutes left in the first half. But let's go back to Game 3 on Saturday. Obviously, there was expectations for this one man who was supposed to come back in today's game, but at the last second, of course, does not show up because not only did he not play in Game 3, why would he play in Game 4 if he didn't play in Game 3? That man is Ben Simmons. This man, I don't know what else to say about him. This man is a living scammer. He is a scammer, people. He is the best scammer I've ever seen. He finessed LSU to giving him a full-time scholarship to not play any games. He finessed Philadelphia to believe in the process, and then to find out that he can't shoot the ball and he doesn't want to shoot the ball, and then he goes over to the Brooklyn Nets. Now it's the Brooklyn Nets. Finally, you're on a team that has 2 scorers, and don't get me started with the scorers. You have 2 teams. You have 2 players who are scorers, and you want to and then you're not going to play in Game 3, but you want to play in Game 4. What sense does that make? Like, Ben Simmons is a living scammer, and then Kevin Durant with his no good self, 11 shots. You take 11 shots in a Game 3.
46 minutes.
In 46 minutes, you played the whole game and you shot 11 times? You're Kevin Durant. You're the best scorer on the planet Earth. What are you doing? And you have Mr. Controversial Kyrie Irving himself not showing up either. What do you go, 6 of 17 again? Oh my! I can't deal with this Nets team. This Nets team is like the Lakers and the Nets in the East are the Lakers in the West. They're self-imploding. They are self-imploding. And it's the funniest thing that the Lakers and Nets were those 2 teams that were at best the favorites to win each out of each conference. One didn't even make the playoffs. One's losing in 4. It's ridiculous. What is this? I'm sorry. This is no disrespect to the Nets, but they got to be one of the most failed teams I've ever seen in my life. How the hell are you Kyrie Irving? You can ball. How do you go 0 of 7 from 3 at home and 6 of 17? You're Kevin Durant. You played only 2 minutes out of the game. And you take 11 shots. Bruce Brown outshot you? Bruce Brown outshot you 10 of 19. Hey, great game for Bruce Brown. He led the team in points, obviously, but
how about Blake Griffin in the second half? 8 points, and he came out.
yeah. They brought out the other nobodies and Blake Griffin and LaMarcus Aldridge not even playing, of course, but so Steve Nash finally got so deep into the bench he brought out Blake Griffin for 8 minutes, scored 8 points. Congratulations to him. But that doesn't take away from the fact that this Nets team has to be one of the most self-imploding teams I've ever watched in basketball in the playoffs, other than my Warriors back in 2015. How are you this much of a? How do you let Bruce Brown outshoot Kevin Durant? That makes no sense to me. But then moving on to the Celtics, obviously Jason Tatum is that dude. He's been proving it ever since he first got into the league. He dropped 39 points. Brown accompanied him with 23. Not really much contribution, but when you have the Nets self-imploding, I mean, what else? What other contributions do you really need other than Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown? So I don't know. I don't know what happens. I don't know what's going to happen to the Nets. Obviously, this is going to be a big offseason because Kyrie's going to be the free agent. Remember, after that big deal that they signed with Kyrie and KD going to Brooklyn, how many titles have they brought in? Absolutely 0. So here we go. This is going to be a big pivotal offseason for this Brooklyn team to try and bring back Kyrie. I don't think they're bringing him back. I think he's going to go. I think he needs to go. We'll get into that later, but self-imploding Nets. I thought they were going to win in 7. They're going to get swept in 4. I am so done with this Nets team. I have never seen such income. How are you Kevin Durant and you get outshot by Bruce Brown? You're the best scorer on this damn planet and you get outshot by Bruce Brown? I'm sick. I don't know what to do. You go.
Yeah, I mean, they were relying heavily on Bruce Brown and Blake Griffin late in that game, and it was pretty close for most of the game. So it seemed pretty clear that the Celtics defense the first 2 games had an effect on Durant in this last game. Like, it seemed like late in that fourth quarter, both him and Kyrie were kind of just not even full. Their heads weren't fully even in the game with all the turnovers that they had. And, you mentioned 11 shots in 46 minutes is pretty insane for, like, it's not like he was, like, in foul trouble or whatever and didn't play much. Like, he played all but 2 minutes. And then Kyrie 0-7 from 3 after his huge game 1 performance. He's kind of been a no-show too. I don't know. There's not much else to say. The Celtics defense is clearly a big reason why for their struggles, was still like 11 shots isn't like, it's still like Durant. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, credits to Celtics defense and all, but that's still on Durant to take more than 11 shots, no matter what defense he's facing. They're hanging in. It's like less than a minute left in the half, and I think they're down. They're showing an ad right now, but they're down by like 4 or 5 right now. So
yeah, I see the score right now. It's 55-50, about 25 seconds left.
So we'll see if they can send it back to Boston or if they get swept.
I mean, yeah, it's about halftime now. Boston's up by 5. KD has 20 right now. Kyrie only has 7 points. We hope to see a bigger half from this clown. And then for the Celtics, obviously Tatum and Brown both have 12. Celtics up by 8, 58-50 at halftime officially. So Celtics once again have a close lead at the half. We'll see how the
Nets are shooting 6-13 from the free throw line, so that's not good.
Oh brother! Oh god! Another thing goes wrong with this team. All right, and one of the last games that we want to talk about is from this weekend. The T-Wolves finally stepping up. Karl Anthony Towns finally coming back to reality after his emotions, obviously get the best of him. He finally showed out. Big game for Karl Anthony Towns. Did not get in foul trouble. He dropped 33 and 14. Big performance from him. Last second win though, close win. This game was really back and forth heading into that fourth quarter. Then the Minnesota Timberwolves started to run away with it near the end. Karl Anthony Towns making his free throws as of late, and then that pretty much was the story of the end of the game. Desmond Bane obviously hit up a three, just for the sake of it to make it close. But in the end, the Grizzlies did get the loss at home. So now, that was in Minnesota. I'm sorry. Yeah, I forgot this. Minnesota's playing at home. So game 4, Minnesota got the win at home. They won 119-118. This is pretty much the Karl Anthony Towns. So obviously on the Grizzlies, Desmond Bane, great game, 11 of 18 shooting. Obviously that last 3 was garbage time, but still 8 of 12 from the field. Morant, not a good game shooting, only 4 of 13, 0 of 2 shooting, and it's kind of ironic that John Morant, obviously, congratulations to him. He just won Most Improved Player of the Year earlier today. But, Most Improved Player, didn't really have that great of a game yesterday. So that's definitely going to have to change if the Memphis Grizzlies want to get out of this series in 6. But, yeah, Dylan Brooks also had a very good game shooting, 50% from the field, 3 of 4 from shooting. He had 24 points. But, yeah, the story of the game was just Karl Anthony Towns, his ability to not, get in foul trouble early. That's what this Memphis team was really trying to do pretty much, all pretty much in games 3 and games 2 and 3 as to why, Memphis won those games was because Karl Anthony Towns was in foul trouble. We talked about it in past episodes, but now Karl Anthony Towns, dropped his 33-14, dropped what he's been doing in the regular season. And, it was a good game for him. You pair that with Anthony Edwards shooting 50% from the field as well, 24 points. Pretty much the story, all the starters, they got all double-digit points. I mean, when you're shooting 50% from 3-point range, which is kind of ridiculous, you're going to get the win in that game. So, Ari, what are your thoughts on Game 4 on Saturday?
Yeah, I was going to say, it's Minnesota because they had another protester onto the court. I didn't even know, but I found out that it's because their owner owned some farm in Iowa, and he had like a mass killing of chickens because of some bird flu. And so these are all animal rights protesters running onto the court. Like I get what they're trying to do, but it's like doing it in that fashion it's only gonna make him look bad. I feel like so there's other ways to do it, I feel like, but that's besides the point. But back to the game. Ja got into foul trouble early in this game, so that was partially why he struggled. I mean, even in the second half when he played, he kind of played off the ball a lot. I noticed, which is different. Normally he brings the ball up a lot, but definitely seemed more hesitant in the second half after not playing that much for the first half. Desmond Bane, you mentioned, is the only reason why they were even really in this game with his 8 threes, 34 points. And then Dylan Brooks had some really big shots too in the second half with his 24 points. But yeah, I mean, Cat finally stepped up with 33. And Anthony Edwards had another big game with 24 points. Even McClellan, I think, had like 17 off the bench. He had some pretty big shots in the second half. And yeah, I mean, it's tough to be a team that goes 18 and 36 from three in Minnesota. So that was definitely, I mean, I can't see them, keeping that type of shooting performance up from three. So I still like the Grizzlies in the series. I think we both had them in 5, if I remember correctly. So obviously that's not going to happen anymore, but I still like Memphis to come out of the series. I think Ja is going to be better at home in Game 5, and we'll see if Minnesota can win at home in Game 6 and force to Game 7. But I still like Memphis to come out of this in the end.
Yeah, you mentioned one of the bigger storylines of this, Memphis Grizzlies versus Minnesota Timberwolves series is obviously the protesters that are, storming Minnesota's court. And obviously you explained the situation, crazy situation. But moving on to basketball, very, very intense game, obviously.
I was also going to say it's pretty cool to see Ja and Cat's dads like having fun sitting next to each other, in front row, supporting their sons. I was just going to say that.
Yeah, that's just something you like to see. Obviously competitive with Karl Anthony Towns on the Wolves and then Grizzlies, John Morant's father. But that's that competitive aspect, and that's just something we hope to see. Even though those two are facing off, it's all love in the end of the day. So, but moving on to basketball, this series is definitely going to go to 7, I believe. It's one of the more entertaining series, especially when Minnesota gets hot. When Minnesota gets hot and they're warm, like especially in Game 4, we thought in Game 4 when Minnesota got hot, that crowd was absolutely electric. They are definitely diehard supporters of this Timberwolves team, and they think they have a pretty good shot at this. So I knew this was going to be one of the more entertaining series, just deep down, because obviously it's Ja versus the future of the NBA battling each other. But yeah, it's definitely a great series. I think the series will go to 7. We'll see how Game 5 is on Tuesday, I believe, back in Memphis. And the final game of the weekend, that unfortunately the sweep did not happen, so no broom was with me today. I couldn't find a broom after the Nuggets won yesterday. Nuggets get the 126-121 victory. I was actually at the Mariners game at this when this game happened, so I didn't get to watch any of it. But I got to watch like the last, pretty much 2.5 minutes when the Mariners game was still in like the 5th inning. But yeah, I mean, Steph Curry, not the greatest day shooting off the bench, but I mean, when you shoot, this man put up 33 points on 3 of 11 from 3, 10 of 23 from the field. So in the field, pretty great day, I'd say, but obviously from 3, not the greatest day. Same for Jordan Poole. He definitely cooled off a little bit. I'm not scared. We're just human. It just makes us more human because obviously Jordan Poole was not human when he was shooting 15 or whatever, making all those threes, but we're human. And it's still a 5-point loss. I'm definitely not going to be sweating. I know we're going to win Game 5 back into Chase Center in San Fran on Wednesday. But great game for the Nuggets. I got to give credit where it's due. Bones Highland off the bench, Monte Morris, Nikola Jokic, Aaron Gordon, they all stepped up, especially Aaron Gordon and Monte Morris in that starting lineup. They both dropped 21 and 24. That's definitely what they were looking for pretty much all series. They were looking for someone to step up in the series. Like, finally, someone actually put up more than 15 points in the starting lineup. So, obviously, Nikola Jokic almost had a triple-double, led with 37. So, just good offense by the Warriors, better offense by the Nuggets. I'm not phased. Game 5 is back in the Warriors' ground. But, I kind of like it's more competitive series now because – obviously egos can be inflated if we just think, oh, easy sweep. Now come back to reality, fighting a Game 5. But yeah, great shooting day from this Nuggets team. They finally stepped up 48% from three, 52% from the field. So you can't ask for more. But the Warriors also shot 50% from the field. But obviously, shooting 31% from three is not going to win you any games. No, 35% when you're shooting against them, a team that's shooting 48%. So not phased, but game 5 will. But also, quick shout out to Andrew Wiggins finally stepping up a little bit, dropped 20 in the starting lineup to compensate for Jordan Poole not shooting well. So, Ari, what were your thoughts on game 4 yesterday?
Yeah, I mean, the first 3 games we were talking about how other than Jokic, they're struggling to have guys score or even mention 15 points. So to have 2 guys exceed 20 points and Morris and Gordon was big. And then you mentioned Bones Highland I think he had a stretch of himself of scoring like 9 or 11 straight points, something like that. So definitely good to see. Yeah, I mean, it's good to see Denver take one in the front of their home crowd, give them some sort of small hope, instead of getting swept in their home court. But yeah, I mean, Clay had a huge game of 7-11 from 3, 32 points. Curry, back to his usual. He came off the bench, but he still played 37 minutes, so he's pretty much seeing his normal minutes. So I would think that he starts at this point in game 5 to kind of close it out at home. But whether he starts or not, he's still seeing his usual minutes at this point. So definitely expect Poole to bounce back in game 5. He should be better. And yeah, Wiggins looked better, and Green definitely their energizer. He fouled out late. But he's still at 13 and 11, I believe, and obviously he has the defense that doesn't get shown in the box score and all of that. So yeah, it was a fun game, close till the end, and good to see Denver take one in front of their home crowd.
Yeah, you mentioned Draymond Green. I forgot to mention he fouled out late too, but I mean, yeah, good game at the end. Obviously, Warriors definitely made it close because Nuggets had a pretty big lead. I remember considering throughout that first half, but then obviously Warriors definitely wanted to make it a game. So great to see that that never give up attitude and Steph and Clay and that team is just still there. Made it a good game, but in the end, obviously a 5-point loss. I'm not sweating. But obviously we'll be keeping track of all these games tonight and tomorrow as we talk more NBA as the first round pretty much maybe wrapping up. Just a little update. The Raptors and Sixers just tipped off. Raptors have an early 7-4 lead on the road. 7-4, yeah, against the Sixers. With a whole 9.
I need any hope I can get at this point with the Raptors. So.
Yeah, with the whole don't get me started with the Nuts. Don't get me started with the Nets though. But yeah, with the whole 7-4 lead over the Sixers right now, and then obviously the Jazz and Mavericks play tonight, and then tomorrow we have the game 5s between the Hawks and Heat. Back in Miami, T-Wolves and Grizzlies back in Memphis, and then the Phoenix Suns hosting the New Orleans Pelicans. But now we're going to go transition from NBA back to the MLB in our first sweep of the season. Let's talk about it game by game for the Mariners. Game 1 was on Friday against this Royals team. A lot of adversity fought in this game. It was getting a little nerve-wracking, but great day on the mound for Flex, and he went 7 innings. You can't ask for much from the 4th guy in the rotation. J-Rod, great game. Back J-Rod and Kelenic, in that, I think we were at that 4th inning. They just went off. 4th. Yeah, that 4th inning was very, very key for that team. Scoring, I believe, all 4 of the runs by a 2-run double by Julio, and then a base-clearing triple by Jared Kelenic on the year. And then, Chris Flexen on the mound looked fantastic. He went 7 innings, got the win. And then Munoz, the guy out of the bullpen who throws heat, got the save in this contest. But yeah, Ari, what are your thoughts from game 1 on Friday?
Yeah, I mean, it's good to see them bounce back after the game 3 against Texas that saw them blow a 5-0 lead. It's good to see them bounce back. We saw a good glimpse of the future. You mentioned the 4th inning with Julio Rodriguez 2-run double, and then the Kelenic 2-run triple, so back-to-back. Pretty cool to see that. Flexing, good to see him back-to-back solid starts after he kind of struggled in his opening start of the season. And yeah, Munoz getting a save. I think it's his first career. I could be wrong, but first or second, whatever. Really shows you the depth of the Mariners bullpen and how many options they have as guys that can close. I mean, they're without Paul Sewald right now on the COVID list, so they're kind of who's normally their main closer. But between him, Steckenrider, Castillo, Munoz, Sewald, like all of them, and even like Ken Giles when he's healthy, Sergio Ramos closer experience. So they have a plethora of options in that bullpen that they can rely on, even if one or two guys are hurt. So yeah, it's cool to see Munoz get the save opportunity and to kind of cap off a good opening series win.
Yeah, definitely Saturday game was very exciting, but Saturday was a lot more exciting. Mariners get the comeback win, crazy enough, 13-7 in this contest. The score of the game was Ty France. I mean, this man was hitting everything that was thrown to him. He went 5 of 6, hit a homer, driven 5 runs. Look, this man is playing some of his best baseball right now. Ty France is that guy. He is continuing to be that guy. Clutch home run in the bottom of the 8th to pretty much seal this game. Looked like the Mariners were in a pretty comfortable position, up 5-1 after a ground rule double, by Abraham Toro that brought in I believe it was
Suarez.
Yeah, it was Suarez that he brought in. But then Matt Brash was on the mound. He only went 4 1/3. Not the greatest day for him, but he didn't get the loss either in this no decision contest. Kansas City did come back, only down by 1 now, 5-4, but then Suarez doubled, and then Carlos Santana homer. Now it's 6-6, and then eventually Kansas City takes the 7-6 lead, but then the bottom of the 7th happens, and then the bottom of the 8th happens, and that's the story of the game. I mean, that 7th bottom of the 8th was electric. Bases were loaded. We're game tied as well after a Ty France single back in the bottom of the 7th. Julio walks, and the crowd starts going crazy. Mariners now up.
Like the craziest I've ever seen in baseball, the walk.
Yeah, that's the most electric walk I've ever seen in my life. Yeah, but hey, I'll take it, especially with Julio at the plate. He's been getting the bad end of the stick a lot throughout his first few games as in the MLB. But then Jesse Winker, doubled down the right field line, and then Toro and Murphy scores, and then and then Ty France 2-run homer to left center field, and then the Mariners break it open. They get the win. They clinch a series win on Saturday. Matt Brash was not the best, but offensively, great series for the Mariners. Okay, great game on Saturday, 13 runs. What can you say about Game 2?
Yeah, I mean, Matt Brash still early in his career. I think this was his 3rd start, I believe, maybe 4th. I think 3rd. It's pretty clear that control is his biggest issue so far. He had 4 walks in this appearance. He still has, the filthy, stuff, filthy slider, hard fastball. So I think he has it all. He just has to kind of get under control. So I'm not too worried as our number 5 starter as of right now. But yeah, I mean, Ty France was the story of this game. He ended up being, which we'll talk about, he was the AL Player of the Week this week. So that was big. Well-deserved. I think he was a co-AL player, though. I think he wasn't by himself.
Yeah,
but,
he was, yeah.
Co-AL player of the week. But, yeah, 5 hits, 5 RBIs. He already had 4 hits, and he caps it off with a 3-run home run to cap off a 6-run 8th inning for the Mariners. J.P. Crawford had a home run, too, in the first inning. Crawford, Suarez, Tom Murphy, and Julio all had 2 hits. So it wasn't just France. It was like all – I think Frazier was the only guy who didn't have a hit, I believe, who was the only starter, I believe. And Frazier's been solid, so for that to happen, definitely not worried about Frazier. Tom Murphy's been a pretty pleasant surprise. He hasn't started every game, but I think he's hitting like over 400 in his limited at bat. So it's good to see him, kind of be better at the plate, because last year it's kind of like an automatic strikeout or an automatic out when he was at the plate last year. So it's good to see him put up better at bats early on the season. Suarez kind of struggled early on in the road trip to the game, with he kind of turned it around at home. And then Crawford's just always the consistent guy to play. You can always count on. And then Julio in the homestand hit, I believe, 290. So he's kind of picking it up as well. He's second in MLB in stolen bases, 6 for 6. So cool to see him use his speed. And he can also cover a lot of ground in center field and the outfield. So he's really showing off all the 5 tools. All he hasn't done is hit his first home run yet, but you know that will come. So yeah, it's a great win, great comeback win. They led the league in comeback wins last year, so we saw a little bit of that in this game and some with the 6-run 8th inning. And yeah, it seemed like a good crowd and definitely a good win to clinch the series.
Yeah, of course. And then we'll head into Sun. Also, he was co-player of the week with Mickey Cabrera. Shout out to Miguel Cabrera, 3,000 hits, incredible career for him. But now heading into Sunday's finale, I was actually at this game, so I witnessed every single moment live. Mariners come back bottom of the 10th and bottom of the 12th to not only tie and then get the 12th inning clutch Jesse Winker single that drove in. I believe it was
Frazier.
Yeah, it was Frazier from second because Ty France drew the walk, automatic walk, intentional walk. But yeah, this game was pretty exciting to watch. Obviously, we literally got to our seats and Ty France hit that 2-run homer in the bottom of the first, so that was nice to see. Not the greatest offensively. Robbie Ray, at first, he was obviously struggling with his command and finding finding his location against this Royals team, but he finally then locked down, got good quality start in this game. And then the bullpen, obviously Steckenrider not having a great year this year. He let up that game-tying home run to Hunter Dozier to force extras in the top of the 9th. Mariners couldn't do anything in the bottom of the 9th. Then Royals get the lead in the top of the 10th. And then the Mariners, I believe it was
a sac fly.
Yeah, it was the sac fly in the top of the 10th, excuse me. From Ben. No, it was the single from Benintendi in the top of the first.
For the Royals, yeah. Sac fly for the Mariners to tie it.
Yeah, for Michael A. Taylor, Benintendi drove in, and then Winker coming in clutch in both innings, and the bottom of the 10th, that sac fly that drove in Frazier, and then the game-winning RBI single that drove in Frazier. So great, obviously exciting game. Super hot. Mariners had the sweep. Now have one of the best, tied for the best record in the AL, and now have the best run differential as well at plus 18. So that was obviously one of the biggest struggles for this Mariner team last year with having the quote-unquote fun differential, but now it's really the fun differential now that we lead the league in run differential. So, I know it was a little nervous, essentially in those last few innings, but Mariners pulled out the clutch win at home in front of a pretty big crowd on Little League Day. Yes, it was Little League Day at T-Mobile Park. What'd you think of yesterday's game?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you always take a series to win, but I didn't want to see them have back-to-back series where they win the first two and lose the third against, inferior teams, to say the least, and the Rangers and the Royals. So it's good to see them complete the sweep. Good to see Winker kind of have the walk-off. He's had a struggle to start the year, but I mean, if you've been watching him actually at the plate, he's had good contact and all of that, and I believe he leads the AL in walks too, so he's getting on base. He's just kind of been unlucky with where he's been hitting he's had at least 3, 4, maybe 5 fly balls caught right at the warning track or at the wall. So good to see him get the walk off and get the game time sac fly, the walk off after he had a 2-run double on Saturday. Hopefully that can give him some momentum heading into the upcoming road trip for the Mariners. France had another 3 hits. He had 8 hits in total in the weekend, which is pretty insane. Crawford had another 2 hits. Good to see Robbie Ray bounce back. Like, even when he doesn't have his best stuff, still 6 innings, 2 runs. You can't ask for much more than that. Steckenrider, you mentioned, blew the save. A couple of bad outings for him. I think he was like his first 4 or 5 appearances, he didn't allow a run. And now this is back-to-back where he's allowed 1 run and 2 runs. So hopefully he can bounce back. I mean, we mentioned the depth of the bullpen, so I'm not too worried about that. And hopefully they're getting Torrance back from the COVID IL, so hopefully they get Sewald and Haniger back soon as well. And yeah, again, they're doing all this without Haniger too. And they should get Kyle Lewis back hopefully next month at some point. So they're not even fully healthy, and they're doing all this. Only the Angels have more runs than them in the AL. And then you mentioned with their pitching, they have the best run differential, so it's good to see that. Obviously, it's still early, 16 games, but I mean, it's better for them to be playing like this than playing poorly. Obviously, good to see them. I think it was a 7-2 homestand after they went 3-4, I believe, in the road trip to open the season. So seemed like they had good crowds at all 3 of the weekend games. So hopefully that continues, and hopefully they can carry its momentum into Tampa and then Miami. I was looking at the future pitching matchups in May 1st against Miami. It's Logan Gilbert against Sandy Alcantara of the Marlins. So that should be a fun one.
Oh, yeah, that's going to be definitely a fun one on the 1st of May in Miami. You mentioned this road trip they have up, obviously today, day off, but then 3 games in Tampa. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 3 games in Miami, Friday through Sunday. And then right after that, we go to Houston for 3 before we finally come home in the beginning of May. So definitely would love to see a Mariner rebound in their road trip after going 3-4 in the first one of the year. Mariners, great homestand. We'll see how they do on the road tomorrow. But now we're going to transition from the MLB straight into the NFL, and we're going to get right into some kind of not really we'll get into this first. Trayvon Walker. Now he's being high as number 1. It's kind of crazy. The odds have now listed him as the overall favorite to be the number 1 overall draft pick on Thursday by the Jacksonville Jaguars, because it looks like the Jaguars are not looking to trade that number 1 pick away. And we mentioned on Friday's episode that the Jags are looking at 4 players. We knew Aiden Hutchinson was definitely going to be one of them. Trayvon Walker was obviously going to be up there, but now it's looking like Trayvon Walker is going to go ahead of Aiden Hutchinson. We'll see what the Jags do on Thursday after all everything, but Trayvon Walker, his stock is rising through the roof right now, obviously throughout the combine and, Senior Bowl and all of the play that he's done. But now it is draft week and he's looking like the number 1 overall pick, the favorite. So Ari, would you take, where do you see Trayvon Walker? Do you really see him as the number 1 overall? But obviously a lot of people do with the Las Vegas odds see him as number 1. And do you think would be a good fit in potentially Jacksonville Jaguars situation?
Yeah, I mean, obviously with the Jaguars, as we know, you can never really predict what they're going to do. They're always kind of unpredictable. But yeah, I mean, Hutchinson was the betting favorite pretty much all for the last few months up until I think today or yesterday when Trayvon Walker became the betting favorite. Obviously, betting doesn't mean everything. Obviously, people betting aren't the ones making the pick. So it easily could still be Hutchinson, but it's still just kind of interesting to see what Vegas thinks and all that. It wasn't really until I believe the combine when Walker's stock rose to this kind of level. So we're just a few days away from the NFL draft. So all this kind of speculation and what ifs and all this is kind of are going to be meaningless, come 3 days from today on Thursday. I think 8 Eastern is the first round. So, I mean, yeah, we'll see. I still feel like it could be Walker, could be Hutchinson. It could be an offensive tackle, which I feel like is less likely since they tagged Robinson, I believe. But I don't know. Yeah, I still think they go defense. We'll see if they kind of stick with Hutchinson, which is their favorite for most of the offseason, or if they go with the scouting kind of combine hype. I don't really think of Walker. I don't think you can really go wrong with any of these guys. I think they're all going to be solid, but time will tell what Jacksonville does with this number 1 overall pick.
Yeah, time will definitely tell. I mean, we already talked about Kadarius Toney recently. Nobody really saw him being the Giants potentially trying to shop him, and now it was just this past Friday when we found out. Now today we found out Trayvon Walker is potentially being the 1st overall. So definitely we'll just have to wait and see what happens in a few days on Thursday with Jacksonville. But yeah, you mentioned definitely Jacksonville is looking definitely more toward defensive tackle, defensive end, obviously with the number 1 overall. But the Jags, they are looking for everything, but obviously right now with just the stock value. They're just kind of going with the flow. So I definitely could see them taking Trayvon Walker or maybe an Evan Neal on offense or maybe Aiden Hutchinson or something like that, power defensive end. So we'll see who goes number 1 on Thursday. But definitely will be either probably one of the 3 people I just mentioned in Hutchinson, Walker, potentially Evan Neal, and Kayvon Thibodeau. Maybe we'll see. We'll see what the Jags do on Thursday. But now some more NFL news. I kind of is breaking today. The Raiders and Packers. They already. I mean, look at this. These two teams already traded before, so nothing new. They're now in trade talks again, but this time instead of Devontae going to Las Vegas, it's Darren Waller going to Green Bay. It kind of makes sense in the realistic things. I've heard this trade may happen on draft day, so we'll see what happens as well, depending on what the Green Bay Packers do in this draft or what the Raiders do as well. But this is kind of interesting. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers, we've been talking about who is going to be his number 1 target now that Davante Adams is now in Vegas. And now it's kind of a swap in a really sense. If this really trade does happen, Darren Waller will now be probably the number 1 target in Green Bay. Not really surprising there. But then obviously, I think that could be the way the Packers are, thinking about right now, considering they just signed Sammy Watkins. So obviously they're not really looking to, if they could find a wide receiver, they would have found maybe like a Julio Jones, or maybe would be in trade talks with Deebo Samuel. So we'll also see how that goes. But now the Packers are now trying to trade for Darren Waller. That'd be interesting to see how Aaron Rodgers and Darren Waller connect well, especially since Darren Waller will probably get overshined with Devontae Adams in Vegas. So, Ari, what are your thoughts on this? Not just from a fantasy perspective, but kind of seeing how Devontae is now going out to Las Vegas, and Darren Waller could potentially be going up to Green Bay.
Yeah, I mean, I saw this report earlier today as well. I'm not 100% sure how, like, the person who reported it, how reliable he is or whatever you want to call it. But, we always hear all these noise and these trade rumors entering draft week. Obviously, Deebo Samuel as well is the guy that people are saying that they expect him to be traded before the NFL draft. So that could be in the next couple of days. But then the 49ers are saying that they don't want to trade him. So, obviously, you have to kind of decipher if you want to say that, what is noise and what is kind of truth. I mean, I heard that the original trade offer with Adams had Waller going to Green Bay in that same Adams trade, but something happened that broke it up, I want to say. I don't know. It would be kind of weird for two teams to trade two different times in the offseason, but obviously anything is possible. It does make sense for Green Bay to go after Waller, given who they currently have in their wide receiver core. But yeah, I don't know. I don't have too many thoughts on it other than that I don't know how reliable the guys that reported it, but it's definitely possible and it makes sense on paper, considering Vegas has Renfro to go along with Adams in the receiving core. I'm not really sure if there's any kind of like friction going on between Waller and the Raiders organization. That could be a possibility for surrounding this rumor, but all I know is that hopefully the draft's always more fun when we have trades going on in the first round. So I do definitely hope to see some moves, and this is definitely going to be one to kind of keep an eye on and one that could kind of shake up that first round if a trade does go down. And I don't have a banner for him, but Deebo as well. If he gets traded, the next couple of days or on draft day, that definitely would be kind of an exciting kind of turnaround, with the first round picks. And maybe 49ers use that pick they get in the first round this year to take one of these wide receivers in this class. Maybe Green Bay takes one if they don't get to trade for Waller and all that. So definitely a lot of storylines, fun storylines to keep an eye on as we head into day one of the NFL draft.
Yeah, speaking of the Niners, I saw this early report that the Niners are definitely asking for 2 first-rounders for Deebo, so that definitely could be intriguing. If one of them is this year, you mentioned that scenario where the Niners get their new guy and draft a wide receiver this year out of the class. But yeah, obviously, we're taking this with a grain of salt. Obviously, the guy who tweeted about this is not the most reliable guy, like Ian Rappaport, but almost got my head to get myself there, but yeah, it's not like an Ian Rappaport, or Tom Pelissero, a lot of people know, but obviously it's something to note about, obviously with draft week right now, and all these storylines and speculations. We'll obviously be keeping track of all this stuff. Obviously, a lot of stuff may just happen during the draft, so we'll probably get you the latest on all of that. But yeah, definitely take this with a grain of salt. But if it does happen, I'd like to see how Green Bay would utilize Darren Waller. I think they'd utilize him a lot more, obviously, since he's going to be that guy on offense. So maybe we'll see a breakout season for Darren Waller if he ends up in Green Bay, especially with playing with one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time in Aaron Rodgers. So, yeah, that would be interesting to see. Before we go, I do have one quick thing I wanted to talk about. This morning I saw a report out of the University of Wisconsin. One of their track stars, Sarah Schulze, died by suicide over the weekend. She was only 21, barely even turning 22. They cited, she even wrote a statement 2 days before the death by suicide. And she was talking about how I'm not trying to minimize it, but it literally sounded like she was like every other college student, just trying to balance life, just trying to be like an average college student, but just the pressure just got to her. And it's a shame that, that this had to happen to another college athlete. Obviously, we talked about Stanford not that long ago. That was just a month ago. And now out of the University of Wisconsin, Sarah Schulze, very, very tragic death on the University of Wisconsin this morning. So I just I say it to myself, and I say it to a lot of people, but personal people, just check in on your friends. Literally just check in, see how they're actually doing, because you really never know. And I just like to keep that pass that message along. Ari, any quick thoughts about this?
No, yeah, insanely sad. Like you said, you never know what's going on with even people you think you know the closest. You never really know what's going on. So it's definitely important to check on them, as often as you can, because you never know when the last time you were going to, see them is. So prayers out to everyone who knew her, all her friends, family, everyone at Wisconsin on that track and cross country team and everything. And yeah, prayers out and thoughts with them.
Yeah, you mentioned it. Thoughts out to the Schulze family, anyone who knew her, coaches, teammates, friends, all of that. Prayers out to them. But unfortunately, we hate to end it on a sad note, but this is going to be another episode. We will catch you guys on Wednesday with the results from all the NBA games that happened in these first 2 days. And since the day before the draft, there's going to be a lot of NFL draft coverage on Wednesday, since Thursday is the first day of the first round. So we'll probably have some big storylines, as well as some potential trades that may happen in this draft. So with that, this has been another episode of AKP Sports Talk. We will see you guys on Wednesday.